Hey guys, this is Red and Blue, your channel on YouTube for all things PSG in English. Please subscribe. Today, the squad is back from holiday and officially back in training for some preseason fitness training. And I wanted to kind of talk through that, what we can expect to see in the coming weeks, how that process actually happens, and what does it look like. I think there's a lot of uncertainty and a little bit of fear. That because we finished our season so late and we're starting this new one so late, the players are going to have less of a chance of getting fit, and that this might impact their performance throughout the season. So just wanted to chat through that. I've done my research and kind of dug deep on what that process looks like, just to make sure that I can, give you the information on what we can expect and how it might impact the team throughout the season. So first, preseason training. I think one misconception that we have, and that honestly I was guilty of having until I started researching this a lot, is that we still think of that process in terms of how it used to happen in the early 2000s or the late 90s, where preseason was this grueling, intense physical training for weeks on end, where players would throw up at the end of training because they'd be pushed so hard, and they would only be doing fitness and not touchable for weeks and weeks. It's not really the case anymore. I think that process has largely changed. Obviously, there is a physical element attached to it, and it is a training that's meant to put the players in a position where they can be at their peak fitness throughout the first few months of the season. But the reality is that now the seasons are so long, and the peaks of performance, it's like the players aren't. We're not aiming to have them just have one peak of performance at the end of the season. The goal is to have multiple, so they can play throughout. So for us, we need the team to be fit in September, October, November for the start of the Champions League. Then be back in fitness in January, February, March for those most important games as well. And then keep going all the way to June, July. We've seen that there can be important games. And so I think, that process of preseason training essentially has shifted from being a one-off that's meant to put the players on the rails for the rest of the season to one point in time where they still do some of that work, but it's changed, and the work also continues throughout the season and happens throughout the seasons. So now the reality is that the players in general maintain much higher baseline fitness during off-season. They all have personalized programs to follow during their holiday. We've seen actually a lot of footage of PSG players starting some of their trainings during the last week. But even before that, in the 2 weeks of holidays before that, they all have instructions from the staff in terms of nutrition, in terms of just maintaining base fitness, not as grueling, obviously, and not as precise, but still making sure that they don't pick up 5 kg in 2 weeks and they don't go completely crazy. Could still very well happen, and I think that's where it matters to pick the right players in the squad. But I think in general, the players that we have in the squad in PSG are known to be very professional, and so the expectation is that they'd be able to follow those programs and stay in relatively good fitness throughout the off season. And so then in that context, preseason is much more about tactics and game rhythm rather than just pure physical fitness. There's also a new element which has progressively taken over and developed in importance in the last 10-20 years, which is a brand and commercial element of it. And so you do see the team doing all of their tours, traveling halfway across the world just to play a few friendly games, which is something that didn't really exist a few years back, and obviously now it's much more important part of it all. And so clubs right now, they really emphasize throughout the preparation, but also during the holiday, on recovery, nutrition. Everything is data-driven as well. They take a lot of information and track a lot of metrics to really inform what each of the players need to do. And the focus, has shifted, and it's really a lot more in terms of injury prevention, load management for players who are playing, 50, 60 plus games a year. And it's a lot less about just building up their fitness level after 4 weeks of doing nothing and staying on the beach in Ibiza. So that has changed. I think in terms of what a typical program would look like, and I think that's interesting, and then we can contrast that with what PSG is likely going to be doing in the next few weeks. Typically, clubs would be looking at 4 to 6 weeks of preseason. Is the general average. The difficulty for teams is generally getting all of the players together between internationals who might have finished later, new recruits who might arrive at different times. And so it's really usually a game of, having players come in at different time and bringing them together so they can reach peak fitness together. Most teams typically do somewhere between 3 and 5 friendlies on top of whatever they do in training. And the key components that for the first couple of weeks, the team will do that fitness bit, so the base fitness, a lot of gym work, some light drills with the balls. And that's also something where things have changed, that players now get to touch the ball really early in that preseason training, where in the past they would have to wait weeks on end before seeing a ball. And then in weeks 3 and 4, it's more about tactical setups. And we move from fitness to really match preparation. So tactical setup, full speed training, friendlies start at that point. So it's really the chance for teams to get their organization together and start working and implementing some of the tactical setups that they want to see throughout the season. And then finally, week 5 plus, so 5, 6, or just 5, it's all about match sharpness, finalizing the tactical prep, and making sure the lineup is ready for the first few games of the season. I think PSG now, what we're looking at is that, like I said, the team started and each of the players had a pretty intense schedule and program to follow in their last week of holiday. And so I think last week plus this week is really going to be following what I just said, which is really focusing on base fitness, gym work, and light ball drills. I think where it's interesting is that for us, we're obviously a team that's pretty accomplished at playing together. They know the tactics that Luis Enrique want from them. So all of that second phase, obviously, I fully expect that the tactics will continue to evolve, and Luis Enrique will be cooking some new things during the season. But we're not starting from scratch. We're not a Real Madrid with a new coach in the place who want to completely change the way the team plays, and lots of new players as well. Our players really know each other. They've played together for a year or two with the coach as well. And so all of that second phase of training is, for us, a lot less necessary at this point. And so that's why, we can go into the game, the European Supercup next week, not necessarily with confidence, because I think there will be a difference in terms of match fitness and sharpness with Tottenham, who's had a full preseason. But at the same time, it's not like our players have never played together and they're going to be looking at brand new tactical setups and stuff. There might be a few tweaks, but I think all of the work will happen throughout the season. So yeah, and then I think, looking at PSG's calendar, what I would expect is that we're gonna see the team progressively getting sharper and sharper in terms of fitness and in terms of match readiness. So we're playing Tottenham in a week, then Nantes about 4 days after that. Angers will be next 5 days after. And then Toulouse on the 31st of August. And I think, that kind of gives us 25 days between now, the first day of training, and the Toulouse game. And I think with the extra week of the players working on their own last week, that's 32 days, which is, 4 weeks plus 4 weeks and a half. So that gives you essentially like the preseason element of it. So I think progressively throughout these games, we're going to see the team get sharper and sharper. We're lucky enough that we're not playing any of the big rivals and so on in those first 3 games, which is typically a privilege that gets given to the champion and the top teams, that they don't play each other in the first few games. We then have an international break at the beginning of September. So the players will be off with their national team. And then we resume on the 14th of September with Lens, with Marseille. We're going to have the beginning of the Champions League happening at that point as well. And so I think that's typically when we can aim to see the team really be back in decent shape and at a decent physical level. So no, I think like, from my perspective, what I would say is that obviously it's less than ideal, and I would very much prefer for us to be able to have 5 weeks of training and preseason and just do that physical work and friendlies and so on. But it's not the end of the world. We also have a couple of things that really play in our favor. The first one, I think, is something that generally is like way underrated by people. Is that we have like literally now like the best training center of world football in Le Campus at Poissy, and so all of the tools are at our disposal in terms of physical fitness and training, in terms of recuperation, like the pools, the cryotherapy, the hyperbaric chambers, all of the massage, and like the nutrition. Like PSG actually just recruited a new nutritionist as well. I think we do have a lot of advantages in this area, which can allow us to fast track that preseason training a little bit and make it more effective and make it more impactful. It always makes me giggle a little bit when people say like, oh, we were so lucky last season because we didn't have any injury, just as if that's just like pure blind luck. The reality is that there is a lot of work that goes into it, both in terms of technology, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of planning, and in terms of data. And I think the leap forward that we've taken with the Poissy training group is just something that's serving us well in this area, and we'll see benefits of it now. The second thing that plays in our favor, and why like the shorter preseason is no drama, is that typically Luis Enrique is known as a coach who's personally more in favor of shorter preseason anyway. And having this work of tactical improvement and of physical readiness happens throughout the year. And I think it's something that we've seen last year as well, which is, the team starts slow, progressively finds itself. And I think Luis Enrique tried different combinations tactically, different lineups. He tries players in different positions, mixes things up progressively until he finds the right starting 11, which I think happened progressively between the Man City game in Jan. I think that was the point where a lot of things fell into place. And I think physically as well, he's been very good at managing the fitness level of the team to have those peaks of performance happen as we need them, where we need them. And so, yeah, I do expect that work to continue happening during the season, instead of just, doing it a one-off at the beginning, which is something like, some managers still prefer to do that. So if you're thinking of Pep Guardiola or Mikel Arteta, for example, they are known for preferring a longer, more controlled camp up front, where they can work on a lot of things. Guardiola actually was interesting because he was treating the Club World Cup as that camp, essentially, and doing a lot of tactical prep work with these new recruits. Luis Enrique, that's really not the case, and for him, he's gonna be doing that work throughout the season anyway, and so it's less drama for us. There is a risk, obviously, that we've got less match rhythm, and that the first few games might be tricky. I think physically as well, we'll have to keep an eye out in terms of how we're able to finish the half season, which is something that I've heard mentioned by some specialists that the games in December and the games in April, May might be tricky for us. But obviously, we do have a lot of time before we get there to make sure we're at full strength there. And then, I think for PSG as well, one of the things that I've heard from fitness coaches and coaches of pro football teams is that because our squad is so young, there's less of a question marks in terms of fitness and a lot more confidence of our players being able to start a new season with little preseason training and just like be able to play games after games after games, even with little break. The main question marks that we have is not so much on the physical side, but more on the mental side. And whether our players, after having won like nearly everything that they could have won last season, will they just decompress and not be as sharp and as hungry as they were last season. I don't think that will be the case. I think the players that we've picked just because they do have that appetite, and I think more than a few of them have indicated their desire to stay on top and keep performing. But that's something that we're gonna have to keep an eye on, and that might be where the bigger risk is. And then the last thing also that's putting us a little bit at parity is that because we're starting so late, we're not doing a foreign tour or a global tour. Which, when I see Barcelona, when I see Tottenham, we've been playing in Korea recently, and there was a story about Barcelona needing to take 5 hours on a bus to catch their flight back to Barcelona, and it sounded like it was a proper nightmare of organizations and for the player. There's really a benefit as well to not doing that in terms of travel fatigue, in terms of jet lag, and so on. And so even if Tottenham is, I think they're back in England now, or like they've been right now, that travel fatigue might offset some of the benefits of them having more time in preseason, and might put it at more of a balanced place versus us. And I think just to close on the topic, we do have one recent example of a team who went into the European Supercup with just a couple of weeks of preseason. That was Real Madrid versus Atalanta, and Real Madrid still managed to win that game 2-0. So I think we'll have to see. We'll have to make the best for it. I think we'll have to rely on the players having done their homework during their holiday, having remembered all that they learned last season, and also having kept their appetite in terms of winning. But yeah, I think it's. I mean, it is what it is. Ultimately, we don't have a choice anyway. But yeah, I don't think it's as big of an issue as a lot of people seem to believe. So anyway, this is what's gonna happen. Like I said, players are back in the campus today. Expect the next couple of days to be just focused on medical tests and measuring the metrics to figure out where each of the players is, so they can start drawing more individual plans. And then we'll see the team get back on the pitch like probably Friday, like Thursday afternoon, Friday. Start working towards the game in Udine. And yeah, we'll see what happens then. We'll also see about recruits, which is going to be another layer to this one. Obviously, if we bring people in, the hope would be that those guys have had the full preseason prep, and so that they might compensate in terms of match fitness, what they don't have in terms of technical understanding and having worked with the team for a while. So we'll see about that. Lots of things to figure out and talk about in the coming week. The season is starting. It's exciting, honestly. I think it's gonna be a really interesting one. We're on top of the world, and everyone wants to knock us down. So It's gonna be the good place to be at the start of the season. So yeah, let me know what you think of this. Are you guys worried about that whole process? Like, what are your thoughts in terms of how it might impact our performance throughout the season? Leave that in the comment. Drop a like on the video. Massively helps to get some visibility. And if you haven't yet, like, please subscribe to the channel. I drop a video every day, so join the team. Get your exclusive PSG content in English right here on YouTube in red and blue. So yeah, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell to get notified, and don't forget, even in Poissy, ici c'est Paris.